Hey everyone, Zangetsu 134 here, bringing you another Kamen Rider build review. And this one I've got some props with me again, such as the Bat Full Bottle. Yeah, you guys tired of me shaking these every video? I'm not, because this finally came in the mail. That is a bright light, isn't it? That is a bright light. All right, that's enough of that. Sorry, I'm just really excited because I've been waiting for this toy. It's a fun toy, and I'm not going to try and put it into rifle mode in this because I'm one-handed at the moment. I am doing this on my tablet as I record this, and you've already watched me one hand putting the full bottle into the trans steam gun, and that did not work out very well. And I don't even know why I decided to bring this. I just wanted to show it off since I showed off the steam blade in the last episode. I didn't even bring the Cobra full bottle, and Bloodstock is in the episode. I just wanted to show off my new toys because I am excited. Yeah, no, he's not. Night Rogue isn't even in this. Kind of, maybe. We'll get there. All right. So, in this episode, we finally get the representative match between Toto and Hokuto, between Grease and Kamen Rider Build. And Build tries desperately to not use the hazard triggers in order to prevent himself from going berserk, until eventually Grease leaves him with no choice but to use the hazard trigger in order to prevent the destruction of Toto at the hands of Hokuto. Fortunately, he goes berserk, and it seems like there is no hope for him to stop him from killing Grease. Can someone come to his rescue? Yeah, no, someone comes to his rescue. This episode was really, really good. It did a lot of really neat things. I think it's definitely the start of Sento's recovery from him murdering somebody. At least the beginnings of we still see that he's very much still shell shocked and in post traumatic stress disorder mode, which is fair. You don't just get over something like that. And we also get to see more of what happened in the lead up to this episode, particularly the night before the final battle between Hokuto and Toto to determine the war between them. More or less, Sento talks to Ryuga and Misora, saying that he is going to fight in the representative match in order to prevent all-out war. Ryuga interjects saying that he shouldn't. And Sento's like, no, you're still too afraid to use the full potential of the Splash Driver because every time you get up to your limit, it overloads you and you can't overcome that fear. Which I think has been more or less been the running theme with Ryuga since every single time he wants to be stronger, but we never really realize that he knows what the dangers of the Splash Driver. He wants to help Sento, but I think he does. He doesn't really want to die, and I think that part of it's because he's finally found a purpose after the whole thing with being a fugitive and putting up with the fact that his girlfriend died, and I think he felt like he really had no purpose and I think is also one of the driving forces for Ryuga. Because he's lost his purpose. He's no longer able to be an MMA fighter. He's lost everything because of Faust. And Sento gave him a purpose of being a Kamen Rider, but he's never really fully embraced being a Kamen Rider. In my opinion, this is where we finally see Banjo really embracing the fact that he's a Kamen Rider and that he has to help people. And it plays a lot into just how how great his character development has been and how great of a character he's been in general. But after basically telling Ryuga he shouldn't do it, and I think mainly because he doesn't want Ryuga to die, especially if he goes berserk and he can't, ends up killing someone. And in doing so, he actually gives Misora a silver full bottle of some sort that more or less is a detonation trigger that I'm guessing either, like, okay, imagine this being that full bottle. Like, I'm guessing if she untwisted the cap, it would basically, be like a detonation trigger. Or perhaps it's a button, or because I don't think you shake it to destroy the hazard trigger. But more or less, it's something that would destroy the hazard trigger. And at first, Sento tries to tell her, like, if you do that, it'll stop me from moving. It'll make me stop moving long enough to, eject the hazard trigger in the full bottles to undo the transformation. It's not. It's to destroy the hazard trigger, and in doing so, it would kill Sento. We're never given an explanation why, but my guess would be that, like, doing so would overload his body with nebula gas to the point where his body couldn't take it and it would break down and fall apart, and he would die that way. We're never really given an explanation what exactly would happen, but that's more or less my idea. And basically, Miss Sora begs him not to make her do this, and Sento more or less says, you have just as much responsibility as I have in creating the build driver and the problem, which I feel is kind of messed up, because, like, Misora really isn't. I mean, don't get me wrong, she helped you, but that's because you two both have an ideal that you want to help prevent the full bottles and the build driver and the Kamen Rider technology in general from being misused. I mean, because if you remember, the Trans Steam Gun and Bloodstark and Night Rogue in general were created as a way to push the power of the build driver further and bring out Build's true power. And, that and the Splash Driver. Like, the whole point of, like, the Bat and Cobra full bottles is to bring out potential. And, and Misora, her ability is just, my power can purify full bottles so that they can be used for the build driver and also to heal people that have been inflicted by poisons and such from the build driver tech. And I just feel it's unfair just because Misora her whole life has been, in service to others. Well, that'd be fair. I think Sento really just said it because he was trying to guilt her, or at least give her enough reason to why she's the only one he trusts to do so. You can tell it's definitely something that weighs on Misora's mind because the whole episode, like, even before they show that bottle, she's clearly, like, it's weighing on her the fact that Sento has to do all this. And it's a really neat episode because we also get to see the beginnings of Sento becoming the main antagonist of the next arc. Particularly since we are introduced to the Prime Minister of Sento more. I mean, we've seen him in other episodes, but we've never really seen him in full or outside of, like, a few meetings we've seen him in. And how that will affect going forward. Otherwise, most of the episode is just watching people either react to or seeing the battle between Build and Grease. Although there is one thing I really like with Grease. We finally get something that I kind of felt was actually true. We actually get to see him being turned into a Kamen Rider. And in doing so, it was because... Or in doing so, Bloodstock says, basically, I'm going to turn you into a Kamen Rider. If you want, I can erase your memories so that you don't have to feel the pain that you're going, that you're basically going to be turned to a weapon to try and, get money to save your farm and your friends' farms and such. And he's like, no, I don't want to erase you to erase my memories. I want to have all my memories and deal with the fact that I'm going to become a weapon. But if it's possible, would you tell them that you guys erased my memories? That basically he did that whole act because he didn't want the others to know that he's suffering as much as he is for doing so. Which is hilarious because at the end when Grease loses... Yeah, spoiler, the main character wins. But, you're watching this from my reaction, so I'm gonna spoil it, so... Yeah, the remaining Hokuto Crow trio basically telling them you're a lousy actor. We knew you had your memories from, like, day one. And it's kind of an interesting thing that basically, like, he knows he's going to do something terrible, to save his family and friends. He turned himself into a monster in order to get the money to save his farm and Hokuto in general. and he wants to bear like the memories and the pain he's going to go through and be like the person he is and not just some weapon. It's kind of interesting when, like his whole thing was, we're at war and we're soldiers and this is what we do, but at the same time he can't let go of the fact that he, was once a normal human. It's kind of interesting because he's very much an antithesis to Sento, where Sento has no memories and has to make his own memories and deal with the fact that he was created. He's the creation of two people being spliced and mixed together and having no memories. He has to live with the memories he creates, and whereas Grease has to deal with the fact that he was once a good normal person, now has to deal with the fact that he's become a monster and a weapon. But yeah, no, and so basically the two of them fight. And Sento tries very hard not to use the hazard trigger. He, in fact, mostly relies on Hokuto full bottle forms, which actually I think is where the Prime Minister Hokuto finally realizes she's been set up by Bloodstock, because for some reason, Build happens to have Hokuto full bottles for no real reason, other than, because clearly Bloodstock gave them to him. And it's really cool. We actually get to see a lot of them. I think we saw Jet Whale, UFO. I forget what. I think it's UFO Tiger. And Rose Copter, and I think we saw UFO Turtle for a moment, but I don't think we did. And it was cool seeing him use those. Unfortunately, Grease still really isn't perplexed by them. I mean, he's definitely thrown off by the fact that Build is using these powers he's never seen before, or at least not utilize the way he utilizes them, and it gives him a slight advantage. But using the base full bottles is not enough to really even phase Grease. I mean, he definitely gets knocked around, but it's not enough. And even then, his last resort, basically, before using Hazard Trigger, was Rabbit Tank Sparkling. And as we've seen, Rabbit Tank Sparkling really can't match the full power of the Splash Driver. He definitely, I think, is at least at somewhat even footing, but once Grease starts going berserk, it seems to draw out more of the robot Splash Jelly. Sorry, got a little spit on them. Spit on the lens. And so eventually he's forced to go into Rabbit Tank Hazard. And it's kind of interesting because not only does he do that, but even in Berserk mode, he's still able to swap full bottle combinations. I will admit that was kind of interesting, but at the same time, like the fact that he still goes Berserk, it's kind of frustrating that, we saw that, he spent a week training to try and overcome the problems with the Hazard Trigger. But at the same time, it was nothing. Not only that, we have an entire mini-series where you see him learn about how to use the various new combinations, and he's still, but yeah, clearly the mini-series is going to end with him not being able to master the power of the Hazard Trigger. I mean, granted, we might see it later on, he'll eventually have to realize, come to grips with what he's done and the fact that, yes, he's screwed up, but he needs to find a way to compensate, because he's probably going to be stuck with the Hazard Trigger at least for another couple of episodes, since we're going to be going into a new arc and most of it's going to be introducing a new Kamen Rider. Until after the introduction's over, he's basically going to be stuck with Hazard Trigger, so we need to find some way for him to master it, at least until they can get to the Rabbit Tank full bottle, or whatever that was called, I forget. I mean, we're still ways away from him getting his final form, which they've already dropped in scan reveals. But yeah, no, more or less, using the power of the Hazard Trigger and a combination of Rabbit Tank and Hawk Gatling, he decimates Grease. He clearly goes beyond the limits of the Splash Driver's ability and defeats him. And unfortunately, he still goes berserk. And I think basically Misora tries speaking to him to try and get him to come out of it, because she just can't. She can't use it. She doesn't want to kill Sento, and it's a very heartbreaking moment. And especially because Sawa leaves, because more or less Sawa knows that like Misora's not going to be able to stop Sento, and Sento's going to kill Grease, and that he's going to kill himself. And so she goes to beg Ryuga to go and stop Misora from killing Sento, and it's a great scene because Build has Grease by the throat, and he's about to deliver the same punch he delivered to Alba that killed him, and it goes to Misora, and you hear like the sound of the punch hitting, and then it pans over, and it's Ryuga as cross Z charged, and he stopped him. It's such a great moment because you can clearly tell Ryuga is trying to force Sento to undo the transformation, to wake up. And then he has his moment where he stalls because he still hasn't done so, but he overcomes his fear in order to save Sento, and it's a great moment. He finally has mastered the Splash Driver, and he uses that power to save his friend. And I love that scene. Especially I love Grease where he's like, so you finally come out of your shell. Because, the whole point in these last 2 episodes has been that Build hasn't really gained his resolve. And it seems to be that he still hasn't. I think that's going to be a major factor for the coming up arcs. Because I feel like Build's going to probably be sitting out episodes. Or at least he won't be going full out because he can't. Because he's going to still be hesitating about using the hazard trigger. And so, like, Sento has finally found his resolve, and he's not going to let... Ryuga's finally found his resolve, and that he's not going to let Sento destroy himself just because of one mistake he made, trying to be a good person and trying to save others. And I really like it, especially when Sento comes out of the transformation. He doesn't really remember what he did once he went berserk. He's like, what happened? And Sento's like, I keep doing that. He was like, you won. You saved everyone, and you didn't cause any more death or destruction. And Sento cries because he knows partly that Ryuga's lying to him, but at the same time he's glad that like he didn't have to die, or that anyone else suffered because of him. And it's a really good moment. It's a really good moment. I mean, I really because it clearly shows that I think Grease is going to become a good guy, and I'm really happy that I'm glad Grease is going to stick around. I think mostly because he's going to help Toto defend themselves against Saito, which at the end clearly shows. Because more or less the Prime Minister of Hokuto was like, you know what, I don't care if Greece loses, I'm just gonna march my whole army in and kill everyone so I can get the Pandora's box. And Bloodstock stops her, and it's amazing. He grabs the phone that she's going to use to order the strike. He's like, no, that wasn't the deal. That wasn't the deal. And so he knocks her down, and Sato's guardians, who are all dressed in red, come in and stop her, and then Bloodstock basically like, yeah, no. She's like, you betrayed me. He's like, I was never your ally from the start. I merely used you for my experiments. And now Sato can begin their experiments with our new Kamen Rider, and it reveals Kamen Rider Rogue. And I am so excited for Rogue. It was pretty awesome, too, because he's coming in and he's got, like, a broken Guardian in his one hand, like, sparks are coming off it from him damaging it. Oh, and it was such a great reveal. I love that. Especially because, like, more or less, Sato's Prime Minister was like, yeah, no, Hokuto's mine now. Hokuto's mine, and next we're going to Toto, and we're going to crush Toto. And it's such a great reveal, and I really liked it. It was a lot of fun. The ending was great, because it was just a little tiny hint of things to come. And I'm really excited and looking forward to it. So yeah, that was my review of Kamen Rider Build episode 22. Great episode. If there's only really any complaints, is that the fact that like clearly like and it's mostly just it's more a Toei thing, just because of the fact that the miniseries they set up is clearly just there to show like how Sento learned to master these full bottles in a week, which you didn't even need to do, because like we've clearly seen that Sento's really good at adapting to the full bottle combinations on the fly. Because the whole point of it was supposed to be like raising his hazard level enough that the hazard trigger would, not be something that he can't control. which is clearly going to still be a remaining factor for the later parts of the series, at least until maybe like a couple episodes down the line when, you know, Sento has to finally shake off all of his doubts and self-hatred. But otherwise, you know, that really doesn't affect this episode. It just kind of shows that, like, Toei really didn't need to make that mini-series on YouTube. It's kind of pointless when basically it does nothing for the main narrative of the show. Like, it could have just been a Televikun and I would have been happy. But anyway, otherwise it's a great episode. I love the setup. I love the action. I like the fights. And I really like the story in this one. And it's definitely a great way to show just how much Sento and Grease are kind of cut from the same cloth. It is a great moment for Ryuga. I kind of didn't expect Ryuga to have such a great moment in this show. Or in this series, since I kind of figured since lately he's been kind of underscored, really. Anyway, guys, that's my review of episode 22. I'm looking forward for the series down the line, and I can't wait to see what happens more. So yeah, guys, that's going to be it for this week. I might have another episode with something later. We'll see. But otherwise, guys, I'm Zangetsu 134, and I will catch you all next time. Until then, take care. I'm going to turn the recording off, and... Yeah, no, I had to. I'm sorry. Bye!